Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from an inmate at the county jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2.
Well, hello there, Brian. How you holding out? Yeah, I know. It's there's never a really good experience when you get over there, no matter how many times you go to jail. But considering the circumstances, I think you came off pretty good, and there is a good possibility that you won't get a really big sentence on this either. So consider this a lesson learned. Yeah, that's really a subject I haven't discussed much. But I do know there is a link between parents being incarcerated and then the children later on following that path. And you've learned quite a bit and you've gathered a lot of information. And so I think if you share that information with other people, maybe it might work and maybe we can keep some people out. Yeah. And you see, the advantage that you have is because you know what could trigger you to go into the right direction. Because of your experiences, there's people that's sitting out there that are on the fence. I can't make it. Things aren't going well for me. The world is against me. I'm going to commit a crime. And when you got to that point, there was something that led you into the wrong direction. If you could just tap into that and share it with somebody, especially those who are more vulnerable to committing a crime. And that's something you should definitely look into because actually both of your parents went to prison and then it just kind of passed on to you. You go out, you commit a crime, and you're incarcerated several times. And I would say, what if someone sat you down and talked to you? Now, you're still pretty young, but you had a really rough childhood, and a lot of your life was spent in the juvenile detention center. And of course, we know that isn't the best place, especially in this area, to be locked up. And it doesn't help because you're surrounded by people that are pretty much career criminals. They're starting out on a bad path, and there's not really anybody there to that they would be willing to listen to. And that's why the most effective people are those who can directly relate to it. Any question that people have or any questions they ask, you'll be able to answer because you've been there. And counselors can go by statistics and secondhand knowledge, but it's nothing like what you go through. And I've seen folks in your position be very successful. And we've got a lot that just, they get out of prison and they hit the ground running because they want to get back. And if you can dodge this bullet and get out pretty quickly, hopefully you'll be able to talk to some of the people that are probably in the bad situations where they're one or two of the parents are locked up or even any other family member. Okay, that's good. And I definitely encourage people to
You
take
have
a
60
journal.
seconds remaining.
And even if you just go to jail and get out, keeping a journal will definitely help you to understand what you're going through, especially when you look back and read over it. And you might think, why was I thinking that at that time? Or I could have done something different. Or why didn't I follow this advice? And it'll just keep you focused rather than slipping away. And
You have 30 seconds remaining.
that's an important part of your journey. Well, okay. Yeah, I do appreciate the call. And we'll be there for your hearings and your court appearance. So stay strong, uh, keep the faith. That's the big thing, and do what you can to stay positive. Okay, yep, same to you, and I'll be talking to you later.
Thank you for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello, and welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I want to discuss some of the issues that are affecting our children today, mostly those who have parents who are incarcerated. Now, we know we have a problem across the globe of single parenting, and it could be because of a divorce or maybe one of the parents dies. And so when children are being reared by one parent and that parent, for some reason, winds up incarcerated, it does affect the children that are left behind. Now, a lot of them end up with grandparents, and maybe some of them are single. They might end up with the grandmother or could end up with another close relative. And I'm sure you've heard stories of abuse by some of these people who aren't the biological parent and who are caring for these kids. And even if they go into the foster home, there's a chance of abuse too. So when we lock people up, we have to realize it doesn't just affect the person that's in the prison or the jail. It also affects family members. And I think if we look at it like that whenever we're sentencing people, we might be a little more helpful to the community. And I'm not saying that the people who are locked up are all good people and they shouldn't be locked away. It's just that something like that you can't just put into a basket and expect everything to work out in the end. Each individual needs to be counseled or studied. They need to be a one-on-one so we can find out what's going on. I know single parents who miss their children dearly. And if the court system or maybe even the penal system gave them an option, we'll send you home on electronic monitoring, but you have to maintain a full-time job and you have to report in maybe twice a week. And then we can reevaluate your sentence and maybe get you out earlier if you follow these rules. And when the people are in prison, they're expected to do certain things. They have to be in their rooms at certain times. They have to eat, sleep, maintain their health and hygiene. And I know when I talk to people who were formerly incarcerated, they're saying that was an easy part for them. But when they get out and they have to make decisions on their own, it can be very overwhelming. And so in some cases, the people don't like to be told what to do. And in other cases, it helps them to be a little easier on their life, especially those who are addicts. Because if a person is in rehab and the drugs are kept away from them, I mean, they're less likely to be using them. And in prison, even though the drugs are readily available, if they have a child that's on the outside, they're going to want to do what they need to do to get back out to that child. And so these single parents, or maybe in a lot of cases, one of the two parents, they have a handicap that the system can use to its advantage. And that's the fact that these people love their kids and they want to get back out to them. I know there's various reasons why a single parent would put their whole family in jeopardy. And that's something we need to look into and we need to try to evaluate. It's not our job as citizens of a country or a state to prevent people from committing crimes or to take care of these people. But we do have an obligation to protect the citizens of the community. We need to band together, help with law enforcement, help with resources, maybe food banks or ride share, things like that. That's something that we should come together to do. And as long as we're doing something like that, people, and these are individual people, may feel that they're not alone. And I think that's one of the toughest things out there, to help the people who feel like there's no other alternative but to commit a crime. Or they're not necessarily committing a crime, they just go out and buy drugs and get high. And I've seen in headlines where a woman was arrested because she had drug paraphernalia in her home with residue from the drug. I believe it was fentanyl. and a child got a hold of it and overdosed. And we need to work on that. That's not just the individual, the single parent problem. When children get involved and we have to send resources out there like law enforcement or emergency medical teams out there, that's costly to us. And it's something that we can prevent. You have those people that are just violent criminals, but then you have those that just find themselves lost, and they have no other alternative. And those are the ones that we can keep an eye on without invading any privacy or without breaking any laws. We can help these folks. And that's why when I talk to folks, I ask them when they get out of prison to get into a mentorship program or to volunteer to talk to children maybe at their church or at community centers. And then that's one way that we can help get rid of some of these drugs that are out there. Now, the children of incarcerated parents are 6 times more likely to end up incarcerated themselves. 6 times more than those who don't have a parent incarcerated. With these children, there's higher rates of PTSD, depression, and school expulsion. I personally witnessed that, and I imagine a lot of you folks have witnessed that as well. You could just turn on the news and see things where kids are they just go through this traumatic experience and they react in the worst way possible. And then the people who are left to take care of the kids, they face financial collapse trying to maintain phone contact. It could be $15 for 15 minutes just to talk to them. And talking to the incarcerated person is important to the child. And then visitation, these people have to apply for it, go through the nonsense that the DOC usually puts them through. Sometimes you can get a 10-hour bus ride or trying to find a way to get to the prison, which is usually a long way off. I mean, for me, I would visit my family, well, not really family, but my friends, and it's a 5-hour drive. And I'll have to apply to get a voucher. I can get a reimbursement for some of the expenses. But you got people that will fly in from other areas. They have to get hotels. And you can imagine the financial strain. And this is not something that we can say, well, you have to deal with it. These people, these caretakers, it was thrust on them. And without them working to try to make this succeed, then it will be even worse. So we should be thankful for the people that are left taking care of them. It's a tough job. And when I got married, my wife went to, this was before I got married, but she went to prison and I was left taking care of her daughter. And I know personally it's not that easy, but it is something that you can do. And my daughter turned out pretty good, I'll say, but it requires a lot of work. And I did have community support. I didn't really know the resources that were available to me, but I share that kind of stuff with people now to try to help folks who are in those situations get through them. And it would really be nice to share this information before the bottom drops out. So if you know a child who's in school who has a parent who's locked up, just remember there's some red flags that could be popped up. And just listening to these kids, not necessarily dictating what they need to do, but just, hey, is there something I can help you with? Do you, how are you doing for clothing that's seasonal appropriate? Do you have a coat? Do you have boots? Do you have a raincoat for the rain? And, if you slide this in during a regular conversation, the kids won't feel like they're being bossed around, or they won't feel that you're trying to control them or label them for something. And there are those that want to help, but they're just don't know how to ask for it. And if they know that you're a little curious and that you show interest, maybe they'll give you a call or send a message to you or even visit you and then open up. And then you've done your job. You've helped prevent a crime. And we can't keep poor people away. We can't keep people off the streets. We can't keep people out of prison, but we can reduce it. And we can show them that they're not alone and that there are other ways other than crime to get to their goals. Now, as I was saying before, single parents are more susceptible to following the rules and making something of their life. I know I saw on social media where a person was interviewing a homeless woman who said she was in school. She went to the school, she applied, she followed all of the necessary steps, but she's homeless. There's about 1,300 students that are homeless in Spokane County. And having homeless people, they have a little extra day-to-day issues and challenges than those of us who have a home. And I'm hoping you're thankful enough that the things that you do have, and that you can understand that when something that we take for granted is just stripped from a child, that's when we need to reach out and do what we can. So when you have a child whose parent is locked up, no stable home, feeling like life is just passing them by, we need to hold their hand and help them out, because it's not just the parent, it's the family, the extended family. And we can do our part. We can help prevent these children from running off and committing a crime. And it's really not that difficult. So if there are programs that you see at a school or in the community that you can volunteer for, I would highly suggest to do that. It helps you feel a little better too. And you will touch the life of somebody. You may not see it immediately, but you do make a difference. And that's what's important, right? So let's pay attention to our surroundings and see what we can do to help these kids out. The stories I hear of how children are taken advantage of, on social media, things have popped through and you'll see a picture of a child whose body was found in a wooded area or something, and they're trying to find out who was responsible for this. And a lot of those aren't necessarily homeless or with parents that are locked up. It could just be a child that just walked down to the store and was heading back home, or riding a bicycle, or even waiting for a family member to come pick them up, because you got those people that just prey on them. So children don't think the way adults do, and they react in different ways than adults react. And that's why we as adults need to guide them, to share the experiences that we went through with them, so that they can gain basic knowledge to look for the red flags. Now, when I was talking to a formerly incarcerated woman who was, when there's a recent lawsuit against the county for neglecting children that were in juvenile detention, she was telling me she didn't really know that being a teenager and having a sexual relationship with an older man was wrong, because she kept saying it was consensual. We need to teach these kids that you don't do that kind of stuff. And there are folks that are comfortable talking about it, and then there are others, like maybe some of the parents, that just don't feel comfortable talking about let's say, the birds and the bees with the kids. But we need to get that going. We need to get it back in school. We need to get it in the household for sure. And if you have children, remember that's an important part. It could make a difference. And if you're a caretaker, you need to explain some of this stuff to the kids. And so hopefully we can get this tapped out and not put an end to it. Don't go out there thinking that you're going to close all the prisons and end all crime. But we can definitely get it to the point where 1 or 2 prisons per state, maybe 1 male prison and 1 female prison. But we won't get to that point if we just give up. And we certainly won't get to that point if we never try. So talk, listen, guide, and mentor. And there's a lot of information out there. There's TV shows that you can watch, podcasts you can listen to, books you can check out of the library, and even AI can give information. But it's just the start. The rest is up to you, and you'll fail if you never try. So at least give it a shot. Well, thanks for tuning in, and please talk to your family. Let's put an end to this nonsense. Well, go out and have yourself a wonderful day and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.